What are the elements of a New Jersey Fraudulent Transfer Act claim? Attorney David Rich explains. The New Jersey Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the NJUFTA, separately defines transfers which are fraudulent as to both present and future creditors, and transfers which are fraudulent as to present creditors only. Specifically, under the New Jersey Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, a transfer made or obligation incurred by a debtor is fraudulent as to a creditor, whether the creditor's claim arose before or after the transfer was made or the obligation was incurred. That is, as to either a present creditor or a future creditor. If the debtor made the transfer or incurred the obligation. 1. The actual intent to hinder, delay, or defraud any creditor or debtor, or 2. Without receiving a reasonably equivalent value in exchange for the transfer or obligation, and the debtor was engaged or was about to engage in a business or a transaction for which the remaining assets of the debtor were unreasonably small in relation to the business or transaction, or intended to incur or believed or reasonably should have believed that the debtor would incur debts beyond the debtor's ability to pay as they become due. Under the NJUFTA, a transfer made or obligation incurred by a debtor is fraudulent as to a creditor whose claim arose before the transfer was made or the obligation was incurred. That is, as to a present creditor only. If the debtor made the transfer or incurred the obligation without receiving a reasonably equivalent value in exchange for the transfer or obligation, and the debtor was insolvent at the time or the debtor became insolvent as a result of the transfer or obligation. So, too, under the NJUFTA, a transfer made by a debtor is fraudulent as to a creditor whose claim arose before the transfer was made. That is, as to a present creditor only. If the transfer was made to an insider for an antecedent debt, the debtor was insolvent at that time, and the insider had reasonable cause to believe that the debtor was insolvent. Contact the law offices of David S. Rich, LLC, and schedule a consultation today. David Rich is a top employment lawyer and business litigator.